Kenny B, the Birdman, Ron Bird, my co-host. We are in the house, and we got a special guest that got inducted into the International Hall of Fame along with myself back in June. Randy Gordon, welcome, brother.
New York City in the house.
Gentlemen, it's great being here. And Kenny, it's great seeing you. Those days that we spent in Canastota were just a weekend, a highlight of my
Yeah.
what I think is an amazing career. And of course, I think you've got yours on.
I left the house. I was rushing all morning helping my son out with his truck. He was having some mechanical issues, and yeah, I don't have it, but no, I don't. It's at the house, safe.
I haven't taken it off yet. And you know what? So many of the people who have been inducted before us, I asked, "Are you guys wearing your rings?" Jackie Callan told me, and so many others. I said, "Do you wear your ring?" And they all have said, "I haven't taken it off yet. Neither have I."
Well, I know every time I shake hands with him, I try to slide that ring off, and
I get it. I get it.
you know what I'm saying. So yeah, he real careful with that.
And I'm always mindful because I might be working under the car or digging a ditch, and I don't want to have to be going to the jeweler cleaning it because of oil stains and different whatnots on it. So yeah, special occasions, I got it. But I want to get into you. We're here to get into you, Randy. And the
We
first
we
thing I would
will, but
like,
I know this is not my show. I'm being interviewed, but Kenny, I got to ask you one question.
go ahead.
Back in June when we were inducted and we had those amazing days and you got home, was it everything you wanted it to be?
Uh, yes,
Mhm.
and,
Me
and
too.
and more and more. And the reason
And
why
more.
more, yeah, because I've been going to the International Boxing Hall of Fame since 2009.
Yeah.
So I've been a part of going across the stage because Ed Brophy wanted to fill some seats and different things, and Ed has been great. The golf tournament, the 5K run. When I first started, me and my wife first started going. I used to be a part of all that. Um, so yeah, it was everything and more being inducted, and I'm sure it was the same thing for you.
Mhm.
All the rest of the questions now are you. I'll try to provide the answers.
All right. Well, my first question: we always like to when we have guest speakers come on, give a little bio history of where they're from. Well, we know you're from New York, but give us a little bio on where you were born, in your life, how many siblings, etc., etc. Go for
Well, born back in 1949. Yep, that far
it. Yep.
back in
Mhm.
Brooklyn,
Yep.
New York. When I was a
Brooklyn.
kid, my father, who was an airline pilot,
Wow.
moved with mom and me out to Long Island. And about 5 years later, my brother came along, and I've been on Long Island ever since. And it was, and Kenny, you, being that you were at the induction, you heard my speech. Boxing came into my life in 1960 when In August of 1959, I suffered severe burns on my right leg where I wasn't going to be able, according to the doctors, ever to be able to walk again.
Wow.
And it was about 7 months after the accident, my parents took me out for my birthday dinner in March of 1960. We came home. My brother was 5 years old. He went to sleep. And my father was just turning the channels on the television. And it was a little black and white TV, which we all had back in those days, 1960.
Mhm.
And out of nowhere, he said, "Hey, you want to watch the fights?" The fights? Okay. I was in a wheelchair. I mean, what was I going to do? So I sat there and I watched these two guys gracefully move around the ring, dancing around, and immediately I wished I could do that.
Wow.
And it turned out that those two guys were Emil Griffith and Denny Moyer.
Mm.
The announcer was Don Dunphy.
Yeah.
And I was 11 years old, and I never dreamed that one day I'm going to be announcing, sitting next to Don Dunphy, that Denny Moyer is going to become one of my first friends in boxing, that Emil Griffith and I are going to become very close friends, and Emil Griffith is going to train the heavyweight that I managed to the heavyweight championship of the world, Bone Crusher Smith.
Yeah.
Wow.
And as I watched the boxing, I realized how much I loved watching it. And I admired these guys who were dancing around, doing their thing. And about 3, 4 months into my becoming a fight fan, my parents walked in the room one day while I was watching the fights, and then they watched me do something that I hadn't done since I was first burned in August of 1959. They knew how much I wanted to walk. And while watching these two fighters gracefully move around the ring, I pushed myself up out of the wheelchair, and my mother went to stop me or to help me. And my father held up his hand and he let him do it himself. And I
Right.
pushed myself up out of that wheelchair, and I stood in front of the television just like the fighters, and I was moving back and forth, and then they saw me move my legs for the first time. A kid who
Wow.
wasn't supposed to be able to move my legs.
That's
And the doctor said, "Okay, you'll be able to stand on your own, but you'll never walk again without the use of crutches." I did, and I ran, and I did everything else, and it's all because of the inspiration boxing gave to me. And that's when I was 10 years old. I'm 76 years old right now, and I go to the boxing gym every day of the week to train young kids, to train pros. I have a couple of pros I manage, and to work out myself. There's no day that I do less than 10 rounds in the heavy bag. I jump rope and everything else.
Wow. What a story.
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
So in between all of that, as I got going, I went to school, to college, and I decided I was going to be a boxing writer. And I started writing about it and talking about it, and I became editor-in-chief of World Boxing and International Boxing, Big Book of Boxing. Then in 1979, Burt Randolph Sugar bought Ring Magazine, called me up, made me the editor-in-chief of Ring Magazine, and I took over Ring with Burt Sugar in 1979. And then the very next year, ESPN was born. They hired me to be an announcer with them. And one thing led to another, and I started doing a bunch of announcing. And then in 1988, the governor of New York called me up, Mario Cuomo, and he asked if I would like to be the commissioner of boxing in New York.
Okay, now, Randy, hold on 1 second, because
Yeah.
I want to get to that. But the first thing I want to ask you, my first fight that I ever attended was after I moved from California to Las Vegas, and it was Muhammad Ali versus Joe Bugner. What was the first live show that you went to, other than being burned and watching that black and white television, what was the first live show? Do you remember?
Actually, the first live show that I covered, um, it was, I believe it was Bobby Cassidy, light heavyweight, against Jorge Ahumada
Okay, okay.
in the winter of 1974. I had been going to a lot of different fights, paying, for any, like in 1969, for instance. I was a fight fan, and I paid $50 for two tickets. Actually, I paid $100, $50 tickets, and
Mhm.
I went with this young lady, and we sat way back there for Joe Frazier.
Interesting.
Again, it was June 23rd, 1969. Joe Frazier against Jerry Quarry, and she was hating every second of it. I pulled cash out of my pocket. It was like the only cash I had. I gave her $100. I said, "Go get yourself a cab and take off. I'll see you." And she did. She took a cab back out to Long Island from New York because I was with boxing and I didn't care how beautiful she was, and she was. I was watching my idol, Joe Frazier. I'm not leaving. And I don't care if you don't like it, then get out of here because obviously, if you don't like boxing, you ain't going to be in my life. And I watched Joe Frazier that night. And
Mm.
I mean, it was one thing after another. But I think the
Yeah,
first fight that I really covered was Bobby Cassidy against Jorge Ahumada. And after that, it was just every time there was a fight at Madison
right.
Square Garden, the Phil Forum, which was the 5,000 seat arena
Mhm.
downstairs, there I was. And then when I finally became the editor of World Boxing Magazine, and I'm getting press passes, and they're putting me right up in front. It was like,
Right. Right.
I
Right.
I am the true fight fan who got the job.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's great. That's great. Well, now you're now I want to get to the commissioner part because I bought your book a few years ago, and what an exciting book it was. You being a commissioner. And I know that when you initially got started, you would talk and communicate with one of our executive directors. That would, in my opinion, I'm sure Bird the same way, was the best executive director that we've had, and that's Mark Ratner. Share your
Well,
relationship that you had with Mark.
mhm. Mark and I to this day are best friends. But Mark and I met because when I was commissioner in New York, the executive director in Nevada was Chuck Minker,
Yep.
who
Yep.
used to be just an incredible judge. And the two of us became like this. And he introduced me to his best friend, Mark Ratner,
Mark
who
Ratner.
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
an inspector. And he told me about this other inspector who he's going to be making a referee, this young kid, Kenny Ballas. And you and I became friends because I used to come out to so many of the fights and
Oh
to
yes.
visit my buddies Chuck Minker and Mark Ratner. And then one day, I remember getting a call from Chuck, and he said, "I've got some bad news for you." And I said, "What's that, Chuck?" He said, "You know this cough I have? I went to the doctor, and he told me I have 1 year to live. I have stage 4 cancer."
Mm.
And I said, "No, no, 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 that can't be true." And I stayed in touch with him. We were on the phone for the next 365 days. Every day we'd be in touch with each other until
Yeah.
finally his fiancee, Dawn, called me up. And when I answered the phone, she said, "We lost Chuck."
Mm.
And I cried like a baby. And I flew out for the funeral, and I was asked to be one of the,
Pallbearers.
just to stand up there and to give the eulogy for Chuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the great Richard Steele presided
Mm-hmm.
over it, and he stood behind me. If you remember, it was outdoors. It was like in a tent, and the place was packed. And I got up there and I looked out at everybody, and then I turned to Richard and I said, "I can't do this. I
Right.
can't do
Mm-hmm.
this."
Yeah.
And he whispered to me, "You can do this. I'm with you. Chuck is watching you." He said, "Now take a deep breath." And I got up there and spoke. It remains probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
And hey, I'll tell you this, and nobody knows this. That day, after it was all said and done, remember Colleen Patchen from the commission?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Colleen invited me and Joe Cortez
Mhm.
to come out on her boat with her. And we went out on Lake Mead, and she drove the boat, and I must have drank a gallon of wine. I got totally wasted to the point where Colleen and Joe Cortez had to basically carry me off the boat, and they took me over to oh gee, why am I just drawing a blank on this wonderful referee? He took his own life in later years.
Mitch helping.
Mitch Halpern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mitch, for that. But Mitch said, "Why don't you stay over my house?" They told him, "Bring him over here." So they carried me over there, and they knew that I had to be on a flight about 7 in the morning. They put me to bed at Mitch's house, and then Mitch, Joe Cortez, and Colleen basically carried me out of the house, got me on the plane, and I didn't really come to until we landed in New York. I was like, "Where am I?" So that was the last time, because I'm not a drinker, but that was all for Chuck,
Yeah.
and I've never been drunk since then.
I
That's
hear you.
been the only time,
Yeah.
and God, I miss Chuck, but from Chuck, I developed relationships, friendships with guys like you and Robert Bird and everybody out there in Nevada. And Mark
Yeah.
Ratner and I, to this day, are best friends. And I love
Yeah.
what he's done with his
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
moving over to the UFC and really helping build
Yeah.
them to the empire, the monopoly, if you will, that they are now.
Yeah.
Which, we don't have a long history, but I remember as a young referee coming up, uh, I met you, I think it was at a convention, and I knew who you were, and I knew what you were about. And what you said to me was, I watched you, and you know what? I think you are a very fine young referee, and you're going to do good things. And I never forgot it.
Yeah.
I never forgot that. And I hope that I made your prophecy come true.
Oh, you absolutely did, And every time you guys were refereeing, the two of you and Richard Steele and all the rest of them, everybody, because you guys had some team back then when I was commissioner.
Yeah.
I would fly out to a lot of the fights, and I would go home on the red eye. I'd leave, boom, back in New York for the next working day, and I'd be on the phone with Mark Ratner, and we'd be talking about things. And I remember, like, when Richard Steele stopped the Julio Cesar Chavez Mildred Taylor fight with a few seconds to
Yeah.
go, Richard took a lot of heat, and Mark Ratner saw me on one of the ABC news shows. It was a national show. And I said, "Mark, know that I'm always on the side of the referee. I'm a commissioner. I am
Yeah.
not going to go after these guys at all. And I was commissioner, and I think being commissioner, I understand what goes into officiating more than most journalists. In fact, let me say this. I understand what goes into being a referee, being I also refereed in the amateurs.
Mhm.
I know what goes into refereeing more than any journalist out there. I will be sitting at ringside, whether it's in Nevada, New York, or anywhere, and sometimes I'll hear a journalist say something, and I'll wait, what did you say? That's not how you do it. And or they know now. They turn to me, Commish, was that the right move? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it was. They all turn to me because they know that
So,
I used to give seminars in New York, and I think one
Mhm.
time
Yes.
I came to Nevada at the behest of Mark Ratner. I came out to Nevada to give about a 1992 seminar. It was me and another commissioner by the name of Larry Hazard, who to this day, Larry Hazard is one of my best friends in life.
Mm.
And Larry can actually say he really doesn't have that many friends in boxing. He does his job, he runs an incredible ship in Nevada. But I was doing announcing when he was refereeing. He became commissioner. I became commissioner. He was my next door neighbor in New York and New
Mhm.
Jersey. I
Mhm.
went to all the fights in Jersey. He came into all the fights in New York. And I'll tell you guys, in my next book that I'm writing called Glove Story, there's a story about how Larry Hazard became the referee for the Buddy McGirt Pernell Whitaker fight. Larry had
Mhm.
been off for 8 years. Can you imagine this? 8 years. He hasn't refed.
yeah,
He's just been commissioner in New
yeah,
York, in New Jersey.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we heard that we were going to be getting the McGirt Whitaker fight. The Whitaker camp didn't want any New York referees.
Mhm.
The McGirt camp, they only wanted a New York referee, and I said, sorry, the Whitaker camp is turning you down. So the sanctioning body stepped in and said, we'll pick the referee. I said, no, you won't. I'll pick the referee. And we
Mhm.
argued, and I said, there's no arguing here. I'm picking the referee. So everybody around me asked, who's the referee going to be? I said, I know. I'll let you know tomorrow. I called up Larry Hazard and I said, in public, I will always call him commissioner. He calls me commissioner.
Mhm.
In private, I call him up tonight. I'll say, hey, Larry. And I said, Larry, you know that we just got the Whitaker McGirt fight. He said, I know, that's great. And I said, I want you to be there. Oh, man, thank you so much. I said, Larry, would I have a fight without having you come to the fight? He said, will I sit with you? I said, no, no, no. I don't have any seat at ringside for you. He said, you put me where you want. And I said, well, there's only one place I'm going to put you, but there's no seat. You're going to have to stand. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. And then I said, you're going to stand in the middle of the ring because you're going to be the referee.
Right,
And of course, I know this is a family show, so
right,
Larry goes,
right,
Yeah.
right,
what the
right.
F are you talking about? And you guys know Larry. You could hear
Oh
him.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And he said, are you crazy? I haven't refereed in 8 years. I said, I know. But let me ask you this. Who is better than you? And
Yeah.
there's
Well,
silence.
yeah. Well, let me say this, man. I watched that fight. It was a hell of a fight. Um, I'm glad you mentioned about what was going on intermittently as far as the selection of the officials. especially for our fans, that a lot goes on in selecting officials
Mhm.
and judges and refs. So for you mentioning what you mentioned was as to how that played out, uh, it's great. It was great.
Mhm.
Well, the sanctioning bodies always knew that you didn't mess with Mark Ratner when they had a title fight coming in. Mark Ratner is going to be choosing the officials. And they knew
Mhm.
that in New York, you didn't mess with Commissioner Gordon, and in Jersey, you didn't mess with Commissioner
Yeah,
Hazard.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
But Commissioner Hazard said to me, I said, listen, he said, I don't think I could do this. I haven't refed in 8 years. And if I mess up, they're going to take you and me and they're going to hang us outside Madison Square Garden. And I said, you're Larry Hazard. You don't mess up. And he said, let me think about this. I said, okay, hang up the phone, think about it, and call me back in 30 seconds. It took him about maybe a minute. And I said to my secretary, Commissioner Hazard's going to be calling back. And I looked over at her and I went over and I sat on the end of her desk. All of a sudden the phone rang. She goes, New York State Athletic Commission. Yes, Commissioner. He's right here. I'll put him on. And then I went into my office, pushed the phone. Yes, Larry. I said, all I want to hear is that you're going to do it. And he said, I will do it, but I'm telling you, the media is not going to take lightly to this. I said, I don't care.
yeah,
And right before the fight started, the fighters were about to be called to the ring. The referee's about to go out to the ring. Larry calls me into a vacant dressing room. He said, I don't know if you're religious or what, but let's just put our heads together and just say a little
talk
prayer.
to the Lord.
And we put
Yes,
our
sir.
arms around each other, put our heads down.
Yeah,
And about 20, 30 seconds later, he
yeah,
gives me a pat. I gave him a pat. I said, go get him, Larry. And if you watch
yeah.
the video of that, you'll hear HBO's Jim Lampley when the ring announcer, Ed Darian, said, and the man in charge of this 12-round welterweight title fight, Larry Hazard. And Jim Lampley said, well, I don't remember the exact word he used. Maybe bizarre, kind of a bizarre choice for referees by Commissioner Randy Gordon is Larry Hazard, who hasn't refereed in 8 years. And when you see the camera cut to Larry Hazard, he's in the corner talking to himself. His head is kind of down, and
Mhm.
he was just totally into the whole thing. And
Oh,
guess
yeah,
what?
Mhm.
12 rounds went by. He refereed the perfect fight.
yeah,
Not one member of the media said what a great job he did. And I speak to Larry
yeah,
Hazard all the time. And I said, do you remember that not one member of the media could have said, they could have said that what a great job you did.
yeah,
Not one of them did that. But had you messed up a slip or a behind the head punch or something,
yeah,
you would have been lambasted.
Mhm.
yeah,
So, I mean, it really irks me because the media, as I told you, and I say this on my Sirius XM show all the time, it boggles my mind how little they really know about what you guys do in that ring.
Well, me and
Mhm.
Bird was talking about it earlier, and it's talked about all the time
Mhm.
about the media, the sports announcers not attending boxing seminars as far as referees or judges, but yet the public, millions of people hear their opinions, and Bird said it. Us referees, we just got to be thick-skinned because we know that we can be attacked
Mhm.
at any time, just like you just said,
Mhm.
Randy, and there ain't a whole lot we can do about it. You wanted to say
Yeah,
something?
just one of the things I just wanted to say, Randy, is that when Kenny and I signed on to the official call, this podcast, our stated goal, and it still is, our stated goal is to, number one, educate the public about this beautiful game called boxing that we love and has done so much for us. But it's to educate the fans and young referees who want to become a part of this fraternity. We wanted to give it to them from our perspective. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, what we want to do is take the fan, bring the fan inside the ring with us, inside our mind, and say, let you, the fan, see this game from our point of view, because you don't. And the classic example was, you hear people say all the time, the referees say, you had your instructions in the dressing room and go on. But no one ever talked about what those instructions were. So what we did, took the fan and brought him into the dressing room and said, this is what we do back here. And so that is the stated purpose of this podcast. And we think that we honestly think it's long overdue. And we hope that we're making an impact in that direction.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, when I first heard you were doing this podcast a while ago, I was thrilled about it, and I've been watching, and I love the job you guys are doing, because I have a lot of friends who are watching who, they're not boxing junkies like I am, and they're really getting into it, and when they watch shows like yours, it just embeds it even further, how great this sport is and what the referees do. And I've always said that if a judge messes up a score and a fighter should lose because of the wrong score of two judges, the judges hold the livelihood of the fighter in their hands. Mm-hmm. Right. The guy should have won, but he lost. The referee holds the life of the fighter in his or her hands.
Yes.
And that's why many times when the referee, who's right there looking into the person's eyes, they can tell if this guy is focused or not, if the eyes are crossed, if he's glazed or whatever it might be. And, walk to me, the gait test, if you will, which years ago they didn't do. The guy would just get knocked down, he'd get up, they'd wipe his gloves and keep pounding on him. You guys do what you do to protect the fighters. Yeah. And I think you guys, the two of you, and for the most part, 98% of the others, I could name a few, but I'm not going to, who when they get into the ring, I'm always watching what they do, and I've taken them to task on my Sirius XM show. Wow. I'm not a favorite of theirs because not too many people will do that. But I don't want to see a guy can get hurt at any time. But if you have a referee who really is in there for political reasons, he's a relative, he knows this one, he knows that one, that's not good. I know I wouldn't want to have one of my fighters in the ring with a referee who is not the quality that you guys are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Randy. And I want to kind of move along here a little bit because there's a few more questions that I want to get in before we run out of time. Randy Commish, explain and tell the fans what it was like when a young, strong, Iron Mike Tyson from New York stepped into the ring. Tell the fans what it was like for you as commissioner, meeting him for the first time, and was there any issues during his early career that had to be adjusted before he came to Vegas and did a lot of his big fights in Vegas?
As we know, Mike Tyson turned professional in 1985, and he was training up in the Catskills, New York, upstate New York, with Cus D'Amato, and Jimmy Jacobs and Bill Caton managed him. And when I left Ring Magazine in late 1984, they came to me and said, "We know that you know all about this young heavyweight we're working with. If you can get him sparring partners, we'll give you like $50 for every sparring partner you get. And if the guy should stay throughout camp, we'll give you another $100. And you get the guys." So I lined up sparring partners, and even as he got going, I started lining up a lot of his early fights. And most of those early fights took place right in New York. Not so much in New York City, a few of them did. Some of them took place a little bit upstate New York, 200-300 miles from New York City. I was at ringside for his first 19 fights. Now, we knew that he was going to win those fights because he just was that good. I had watched thousands of rounds of sparring in the gym, and I said, "Oh my God, he's amazing." And the opponents we were getting him, we knew he was going to blow them out, but not like that. We never knew he was going to throw shots and lift them off the deck. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And of course, as he got going, he knew me as an announcer for the Madison Square Garden Network and everything else. But then, right after Customato died, and then in 1988, when Jimmy Jacobs died, Don King swooped in because he saw tons of money. And Tyson also then got married to Robin Givens, and Givens was always whispering in his ear that Don King hates you. And King was whispering in his other ear, "Don't trust her." And Tyson thought that King was his best friend, thought that Givens was his best friend. And when you've got two people who you think are your best friends pulling at you like that, any guy's going to go nuts. And of course, he fell apart at the seams. We saw him lose over in Tokyo to Buster Douglas. And that original Mike Tyson, I always called him Catskill Thunder. To this day, I call him Catskill Thunder. He once said to me, "I like that name." And I do think that he was one of history's all-time great fighters. Although I don't think he was the greatest heavyweight, because in my mind, Muhammad Ali was truly the greatest heavyweight of all time. Now, people have argued with me about that, but you can argue all you want. It's my opinion. You guys can have your opinion. I can't argue what your opinion is. But Tyson is up there. But I tell you this, I don't know if you guys know this. Tyson and I used to sit around and watch films in Jimmy Jacobs' office. And one day, we're watching films on the heavyweight champions. We get to Sonny Liston, Charles Sonny Liston, who was so misunderstood. I wish he was around today. He would be, I only wish he could be fighting today. And when we got to the film, the footage of Sonny Liston, Mike Tyson started to cry. Keep in mind, this is before he even turned pro. This is about 1984. At that time, he was 18 years old. And I looked at him and "Mike, what's wrong?" He said, "I could never beat him." Now, he hasn't proven anything yet. He's 18 years old. And I laughed. And he said, "No, I fight everybody up here. Everybody. And I can beat everybody up here. I can't beat Sonny Liston ever." And do you know, I think to this day, I believe it's on the anniversary of Sonny Liston's death, Mike Tyson goes to his cemetery plot and leaves flowers.
Yeah.
That's how much Mike Tyson thought of Sonny Liston. Mike Tyson is a very warm individual. If he knows you and trusts you, you know how many journalists have burned him? they do a great interview with him, and then he reads something the next day or hears something on television that's completely unflattering and untrue.
Yeah.
So he has turned against the media. Um, and I hated it when I was commissioner in New York because I had to go by the letter of the law. And when he was trying to break his contract with Bill Caton, there were certain things that he said to me that I knew weren't true. So I think he didn't like me as Commissioner Gordon, but we seem to have no problem now that all those years have passed and he's where he is, and I'm the commish on Sirius XM and everywhere else, and a guy who does a lot of these podcasts.
Well, I'll tell you this, Randy. I was an inspector with the Nevada Commission the
Mm-hmm.
night that Mike became the youngest heavyweight champ of the world,
When he beat
and
Trevor Berbick,
when he
November
beat Trevor
22nd.
Berg at the MGM or at the Hilton Hotel. And I've been in press conferences and I've seen how the media has treated him and the type of questions that they've asked him. So yeah, you brought up a very, very good point when it came to that. The next thing, though, I'd like you to share is uh, your podcast and your co-host, which is Jerry Cooney. I got to give a shout out to Jerry, and just let our fans know how that your podcast got started and how you got Jerry hooked in to be a part of your show.
Well, we started the boxing show back in 2009. I never thought that it was going to be lasting this long. All that time, it turned out that the president of Sirius XM Radio, Scott Greenstein, walked past me one day, and I said, "Good morning, Scott." And he goes, "Good morning, Randy." Then he kept walking, and he stops, and he turns around, and at that time, I was doing an MMA show, not a boxing show. He said, "Why are you working here doing an MMA show when you're one of the best boxing historians that I know? Why aren't you doing a boxing show?" I said, "Do you know that I asked my sports boss if I could do a boxing show?" He said, "No, it won't go over." He said, "It won't go over?" He said, "Okay." He said, "I'm a boxing fan. I want to see you do a boxing show. Do you want to do a show?" And I said, "I'd love to." And then he changed the subject. He goes, "Do you know Jerry Cooney?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, Can you reach out to him?" I said, "Sure. I mean, I haven't spoken to Cooney in several years." This was in 2009. He said, "Tell you what, ask him if he'll come up. I'm going to be in my office all next week. Take any day. Tell him I want to take him to lunch. I'm going to send my limousine for him. We'll pick him up. We'll bring him home." I called him up and I said, "Hey, Jerry, it's Randy." "Hey, Randy, what's going on? I'm at Sirius Radio, blah, blah, blah." I said, "The president is like a big Jerry Cooney fan. He wants to have lunch with you. Can he send his car for you, let's say next Wednesday?" And Jerry said, "Sure. What time?" I tell him. The car picks him up, brings him to Sirius Radio. I introduce Jerry to Scott Greenstein. Scott says, "Come on in, guys." And we sit down. And he said, "Jerry, how would you like to do a boxing show here?" And Jerry said, "Really?" And Scott said, "Yeah, you'll host the show." And Jerry goes "Wow, like me and Larry Holmes?" And Scott said, "No, like you and Randy." I didn't. I looked at Cooney. He looked at me. We both went, "Yes." He said, "Done." I said, "But Scott, what about Steve? Steve doesn't. He was the president of sports." I said, "He doesn't like boxing." He said, "Steve works for me. I want a boxing show. You want it? You want it? You've got a boxing show." He picks up the phone, calls Steve, said, "I just gave Randy Gordon and Jerry Cooney a boxing show. You figure it out when it's going to be, what time it's going to be, what you're going to call it. Get it done." Hangs up on him. Well, we're
That's,
doing the show 17 years now. Every Monday, every Thursday.
that's a great start for you and Jerry. How you guys met. Our time is starting to run to a close, but I want to make this point about you, Randy, because we've been longtime friends, and I remember when you came to Vegas one time and we had breakfast at the MGM. This moment really touched my heart because you knew Howard Davis. Howard Davis was
Oh,
on the '76 Olympic team with Sugar Ray Leonard, with the Spinks brothers,
yeah.
and he was battling cancer at the time, and you got him on the phone. I was able to talk to Howard, and didn't know him, but you made the introduction between me and him, and it was just a great moment for me to talk to Howard through your contact with him, and I want to thank you for that. Birdman, do you have anything that you'd like to share to Randy before we close it out?
Just this, that you represent what I think is great about this game and what is needed in this game. And that is strong leadership. And the people that most represent that, yourself and Mark Radner and Larry Hazzard. And we need more of those kinds of people in this game because, you know, the game is going through a lot of changes,
Yeah.
a lot of changes,
And a
and
lot more coming.
and a lot more coming. But thank you for at least putting an example out there of what it should look like and what it could look like and what could come from strong, positive leadership. I thank you for that. And
Guys, I really want to I
30
want to
seconds,
thank you.
30 seconds. Last comment,
I
Randy.
wish I wish the entire world, we know how messed up this world really can be. I wish this entire world can be like the boxing world was. Got its little problems, but we are in love with each other in this sport. And I wish the whole world felt the way about each other the way we do in boxing.
appreciate you.
Thank you, Randy. You just heard it on the official call.
Shout
Randy,
out.
could you give us a quick shout out? And before your quick shout out, we always end the show with what I say you must obey.
Let's do this.
Give us that shout out. Give us that shout out, Randy, to the
Robert
official
Byrd,
call.
Kenny Bayless, the official call. You guys do an amazing job. Everybody, I'm telling you, watch the official call. Thank you so much, guys. I love you, and we'll speak to you guys soon. Be well, be safe.
All right. Thank you,
Appreciate
Randy.
you.
Love you back, brother. Good job.